Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm glad you're here. I'm Rita Hickman, I'm body mind expert, shiatsu massage therapist. And I think we're going to start today with a little bit of being quiet. I'm starting to try a little bit of a new format, one where the information will sink in a little bit deeper, one where you'll be able to get past all the resistance and all the rejections that happen in your body and in your mind. And help you really start to put the things that you're hearing and the lessons that you're learning, whether it's from me or from anyone, into practice and get some of those fears and anxieties out of the way and really get you thinking in a new direction, thinking in new ways. So we're just going to sit here. I want you to find a comfortable place where you feel supported, where you feel like you can be somewhat comfortable even if you're uncomfortable. And if you're not in a place where you can feel supported and comfortable, watch this when you can be. Watch this when you're able to start to feel safe and calm down, because this will wait. We want the information to sink in. So take a deep breath in to the count of 5. Breathe in to the count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Things like that, they get you into an open state. If you listen to things while you're in an open, relaxed state, it means that you can hear them better. It means that they have a bigger impact. If you listen to things when you aren't feeling comfortable and supported, when you aren't in a good space, then it bounces off of all of the fear and anxieties and depressions and suppressions and ego and triggers. It bounces off all of that stuff and it doesn't land. So it doesn't start to make changes. But taking just a moment to ground, whether you ground by putting your feet on the ground, whether you ground by taking some breaths, and we'll do something every morning now before we chat for a little bit. So we're going to breathe. I want you to just relax. And for the next 30 seconds, we'll just be quiet. Don't worry, I'll tell you when the 30 seconds are up. Maybe just pay attention to your breathing. Maybe do the 5 breaths in and hold and the 5 breaths out. Just for a few seconds. You're allowed to have nothing bothering you. Even if you're very uncomfortable. Every step you take where you breathe is one step closer. Okay, so today we're talking about how you found the courage and the strength and the wisdom and the insight and all of that to walk out of a current narcissist relationship, or maybe you found the courage or strength to stay in a narcissistic relationship, but you're still feeling jerked around by your own emotions. Maybe you're ready to leave, but you know you can't leave until you can stand on your own, until you know you'll be okay, until you know you can take care of yourself. Those are things we're looking at. Those are things we want to get you to. When we have trauma as a child, we create what are called trauma triggers in our brain. Those are neural receptors that tell your body that this is dangerous. And when the trauma first happened, it was dangerous. You were small. You were helpless. There wasn't anything you could do. And you handled it in a wide variety of ways. Maybe you got angry. Maybe you walked away. Maybe you got sick. Maybe you became a people pleaser. Maybe you got good grades. Maybe you got a little OCD. Maybe you became a type A personality. However you coped, you found a way to cope and power through. But as life went on, trauma still keeps stacking up. We still get unprepared. We still get caught off guard. We still feel helpless. And so then we get re-traumatized, and the trauma is reinforced to stay in place. That trauma button, that hot button, it's actually a hot button in your brain that gets pushed. So how do you reverse this? How do you stop triggering? How do you stop getting drawn into anybody else's insecurities or emotions or drama or pain or suffering? How do you find a way to give yourself some peace? Because that's really the core of it. When you had trauma when you were younger, whether it was something that was big or even stuff that was small, like you moved around a lot or your parents got divorced, if you felt helpless and it was unexpected and nobody helped you process through it, what came up in your brain, what came forth was a trauma button, a trauma receptor. What we want is we want the trauma receptor to be absorbed, reabsorbed back into the body. Because otherwise, every time something even vaguely reminds you of something related to the trauma trigger, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna have to use your coping mechanisms, which aren't always the best. Let's stop coping. Let's stop just dealing with the pain and the suffering and the misery that being triggered causes. Let's just stop, because you don't have to stay with it. You don't have to keep living that way. You really don't. So how do you dismantle a trauma trigger? Well, when you get triggered, or when you have a strong emotion, or when you have an insecurity, or even when you get depressed, what's happening is that trauma trigger got dinged and it told your body to go into fight or flight. Most people are in fight or flight pretty constantly anymore with the state of the world that we're in. And in that fight or flight, we can give it a name. We can call it ego. Many times what our fight or flight is called is the ego, and it can be demonized, which is wrong. It can be beat up, which is wrong. It could be ignored and denied and vilified and painted black. But really, it's the fear response. It's the amygdala. It's the sympathetic nervous system. What you want is to get out of the back of your head and that fear and that primal part of your brain, and you want to get into the frontal lobe. You want to get into the part of your brain that feels relaxed, that feels safe, that is calmer. That's your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, how do you flip that switch? How do you flip the switch in your brain so that you go from reliving or ignoring the fact that you're reliving this internal reaction to something, anxiety, depression, skin crawling, anger, frustration, irritation, judgment, OCD, overeating, drugs, drinking, working too hard, being super successful. A lot of very successful women developed very good coping skills, but you eventually hit a wall because you can't just keep coping. Your body just can't keep doing it. It's not possible. It has to get out of the fight or flight. It has to get out of the amygdala, or you'll get sick. Everything will kind of fall apart around you eventually, but you can get rid of it. It's about flipping from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. What do? You can go for a walk. One of my favorite things is when I'm feeling stressed is to go outside with my shoes off and stand on the ground. And what that does is we start to entrain to the rhythm and the vibration of the earth, which is super calming for the nervous system. What got me into body work is skin to skin touch. The only thing that would calm me down was skin, basically laying next to my husband. That's the only thing that would calm me down when I was much, much younger, when I was in my 20s and 30s. That was the only thing I had. And that encouraged me to get into body work because it was such a powerful way to calm down. And it is, it's very purposeful. The nervous system responds to skin on skin touch, not the creepy kind, but just neutral. Neutral skin on skin touch is very, very effective for calming your nervous system. That's why you see babies on chests. You see why all the things you're supposed to do with babies. It's because it works for you too. My favorite tools lately are havening and the tap points because I can use them anywhere. So they involve the touch. Havening is when you feel anxious or upset and you stroke your arms 20 times. And what that does is that stroking action naturally flips you out of your sympathetic into your parasympathetic. And it dismantles, it lets that trigger be reabsorbed into the body. It takes it away for good. Triggers that you've been dealing with since you were in the womb. Triggers you were dealing with that weren't even your triggers. You just dismantled it. When you do this, you dismantle it and check next time. See if you get, is it anxious? The other thing that's been super powerful are the tap points. They're trauma points. Here, here, and in the middle of your forehead. Inside of your eyebrows, middle of your forehead. Other hand goes on the back of your head, like cradling the back of your skull. And you just hold it there. You hold it there until you feel better. Because holding those points takes you out of sympathetic into the parasympathetic. And remember, that's the key. We want our body to go from fight or flight to frontal lobe. And when that happens, it tells the trigger that's safe, that it doesn't need it anymore, and it gets reabsorbed in the brain. Very cool stuff. So I use the tap points. I just hold it until I feel better. Maybe you'll think thoughts. Don't worry about anything. You can think as nasty a thoughts you want or as good a thoughts that you want, really, or none at all. I sometimes just repeat the alphabet a couple different times until I feel better. You don't have to do anything special. You just have to hold the points. And holding the points takes you out of the fight or flight and brings you back into the parasympathetic nervous system. You can use food to do it. Some people use drugs or alcohol to try to get their nervous system to calm down. Other people use breathing exercises. They'll use hobbies. They'll use, remember when you would watch people and they'd get angry and they'd handle their anger by going to go, beat a punching bag or something, do something physical, exercise, run, whatever. What that does is that movement and exercise, it takes you out of the sympathetic into the parasympathetic. It dissolves the trauma trigger and it lets you see deeper into the problem. It lets you see the solution or the answer you've been looking for that has been hidden from you because you've been triggered, because you've been in fight or flight. So imagine getting rid of all the anxiety, all the depression, all the stuff that keeps you feeling trapped, all the fears, and you can start doing something about it. Anything you know of that calms you down, that takes you out of the sympathetic into the parasympathetic. A bath is good. I love baths. Baths turn it around. Essential oils are great. They're great for flipping you out of your sympathetic and into your parasympathetic. Chocolate. I personally like chocolate. Dairy, oddly enough, because when dairy hits the digestive system, it releases beta endorphins. Acupuncture works. Massage works. Reading, music, dance, all of this work, art, all of it. Sitting in front of a fire, long distance driving, something that's repetitive, hobbies or brainless sort of activities, cleaning, gardening, all of those things. Now, it's not always convenient to go outside and garden at 3 a.m. when your mind is spinning, but you can do havening, which is the stroking. And if you don't want to be embarrassed, if you don't want to disrupt somebody, you can stroke your hands or you can stroke your face. When I don't want to disturb someone or I want to be unobtrusive, I'll stroke my hands or I'll stroke my face. And then I'll find a way to go to the bathroom and I'll stroke my arms and I'll do my trauma points. And what those do is they deregulate your nervous system. They get it so that the trauma trigger gets dismantled. They get it so that you can see a solution instead of feeling trapped by your own feelings. And you're able to create healthy, happier relationships because you're no longer coming from a place of being re-traumatized and re-victimized over and over without your say-so, without feeling helpless again, to take you right back to that. It happens all the time. Start looking for it. Every time you have a judgmentalism, every time you have an irritation, every time you have an aggravation, every time you want to yell, every time you want to beat something up, remember, you are in fight or flight. And the faster you do something to get you out of fight or flight, the clearer your thinking will be, the more you'll be able to see solutions, the better choices you'll make, and you will take your power back. Because really, you've given a narcissist, or a narcissist was given because of your trauma, older trauma. A narcissist was given the keys to your psyche. And we gave it to him because we thought it would be a good relationship. But it's time to take those keys back. It's time to stop allowing everybody else to determine how you're going to feel, because you don't have to. It'll take a little bit of time to dismantle these things. You're still going to get triggered by them because you've got layers and layers and so many more triggers than you ever thought imaginable. But if you start cleaning them up now, if you start catching them quick and course correcting, getting yourself out of the sympathetic into the parasympathetic, things will start to go easier, okay? If you need some support through this, if you want some help through this, please reach out. Share these videos with other women. I have a 3-month program that I'm offering for $19.97 for anyone who wants to take a fast track. If you want a slower track, we can do something where it's one-on-one for as long as you want. And if you want a track that's low key, just on the fringes, well, you can just join our group, join our support group for it. So there's lots of different options, lots of different resources available, and ways to get out. I know you think you're trapped, but there's a way out. So visit inspiremassage.com. If you're curious, find out more about me, reach out. We'll set up a time to talk, see where you're at, what's going on. It's just a friendly chat. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.